Hey everyone, welcome back. We're diving into the mind of David Deutsch today,
Oh, yeah.
a physicist and philosopher who tackles those really big questions,
Mm.
you know.
hmm
But while he's known for things like the multiverse
Yeah.
and quantum computation,
Right.
we're focusing on something a little different this time around.
Yeah.
His unique perspective on beauty.
Oh, very interesting. His ideas about beauty are beautiful in and of themselves.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
He approaches the subjects like he does with physics,
Uh-huh.
with rigor and curiosity,
Yeah.
challenging how we typically think about things,
Mm.
and pushing us to see beauty in a new light.
I like that. Yeah.
Okay, so let's break this down a bit.
Sure.
Deutsch starts off with a pretty bold claim
Okay.
that the existence of beauty, especially in nature, is a scientific problem worth exploring. Now, I mean, we all could appreciate a beautiful sunset or flower,
Sure.
but what makes it a scientific problem?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah.
And that's where Deutsch flips the script. He challenges that common evolutionary explanation that beauty serves purely biological purposes.
Right, like a flower being bright to attract pollinators so it can survive.
Exactly. The survival of the fittest idea.
Right.
But Deutsch argues that there's something more to it.
Okay, so not just survival, but like what?
Well, especially when you consider humans and our ability to appreciate beauty.
Yeah, that's true.
I
I remember reading about his concept of coevolution,
Yes.
where like flowers evolved to be aesthetically pleasing,
Yeah.
and at the same time, humans, with our need to understand the world, developed this taste for beauty,
Yeah.
like a cosmic dance leading to some kind of shared aesthetic language.
Exactly. A beautiful dance indeed.
Right.
And he doesn't stop there.
Okay.
He suggests that this points to a sort of objective beauty,
Okay.
something beyond cultural or genetic explanations. Think about those aesthetic standards that seem to go beyond cultures and time periods. Why do certain art pieces or music resonate with people from vastly different backgrounds?
I see what you mean. 'Cause,
Yeah.
like some art speaks to a universal human experience,
Huh.
regardless of where you come from or when you lived.
Exactly.
But if beauty isn't totally cultural or genetic, then what is it?
Right.
Where does this objective beauty come from?
That is the question.
Yeah.
And that's one that Deutsch tackles head on.
Okay.
He argues that humans are able to recognize and appreciate objective beauty
Yeah.
because it's somehow woven into the fabric of reality itself.
Okay, now this is where it starts to get really mind-bending.
It is, but stay with me on this.
Oh, believe me, I am.
Okay, good.
But before we go too far down that rabbit hole,
Sure.
can you give me an example of what Deutsch means by objective beauty in art?
Okay.
What would be like a good example of art that embodies this idea?
Let's take music, for example.
Okay.
Think about a piece of music that really moves you.
Mm-hmm.
Is it just the sounds themselves, or is there something more? The way the music brings up emotions or memories, even philosophical ideas,
Mm-hmm.
Deutsch would argue that the beauty we experience in that music goes beyond personal taste or cultural conditioning.
Okay.
It's about the depth of meaning,
Yeah.
the profound understanding it reveals to us about ourselves and the world.
Okay. I think I'm starting to get a sense of what he's talking about here.
Good.
But if beauty is tied to this deeper meaning,
Yeah.
wouldn't that mean that a technically perfect painting
Yeah.
that doesn't have that depth
Yeah.
wouldn't be considered beautiful in Deutsch's view?
Right.
I'm thinking of those hyper-realistic paintings
Yeah.
that are technically impressive,
Uh-huh.
but they might not evoke much emotion or thought.
That's a great question.
Yeah.
And it gets to the core of Deutsch's argument.
Mm-hmm.
He says art is not just about skill or technique.
Mm-hmm.
It's about creating knowledge, about pushing the boundaries of understanding,
Mm-hmm.
just like in science.
Okay.
So a technically flawless painting that doesn't offer anything new, doesn't challenge our perceptions or show us new insights.
Yeah.
It might be impressive,
Right.
but it wouldn't necessarily be good art by Deutsch's standards.
So it's not about perfectly copying reality, but
Yeah.
about using art to explore new possibilities,
Exactly.
to create something that goes beyond just imitation.
Yes.
I'm starting to see how this connects to his idea of beauty as a problem to be solved.
Right. It's about using art to tackle those big questions,
Yeah.
to uncover those hidden truths and express them in a way that resonates with us on a deeper level.
Yeah.
That's where the true beauty lies, according to Deutsch.
This is definitely making me rethink how I view art.
Good.
It's not just about what looks good.
Hmm.
It's about knowledge and understanding.
Yes.
And if beauty is connected to knowledge,
Yeah.
then it makes sense that it's not fixed or static.
Exactly. That brings us to another interesting part of Deutsch's thinking.
Okay.
This idea that the pursuit of objective beauty in art is like the pursuit of knowledge itself. It's open-ended, potentially infinite. It's a journey of discovery with no final destination.
Yeah.
Always evolving, always pushing forward.
Okay, this is blowing my mind.
Uh-huh.
So instead of seeing beauty as something fixed and defined,
Yeah.
Deutsch sees it as a dynamic process,
Yes.
always changing as we learn and create.
Mm-hmm.
That's a pretty big shift in perspective.
It is.
Yeah.
It has some pretty deep implications for how we see art created and experience it.
Yeah.
But that's a conversation for another part of our deep dive.
Okay. Sounds good.
Yeah. Welcome back to our deep dive into David Deutsch's ideas.
Yeah, it's
on beauty and aesthetics.
It's pretty amazing how he challenges us to rethink the limits of creativity. Not just in art, but really like everywhere.
Yeah.
In everything we do.
It's true.
I'm still kind of stuck on that idea
Oh, yeah.
that the search for beauty could be infinite, like the pursuit of knowledge.
Yeah. It's both exciting and a little daunting, to be honest.
I agree.
If beauty is always changing, how can we even begin to grasp it?
Right? How do we even approach it?
That's the beauty of it. There's always more to discover, more to create.
Okay.
Deutsch wouldn't give us a simple answer, and I think that's a good thing.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Remember, his whole point is that creating knowledge is open-ended,
Mm-hmm.
but he does give us some tools to think about it all.
Okay.
One that comes to mind is his idea of universality.
Universality.
Yeah.
Remind me how that fits in here.
Okay.
I know it's big for Deutsch, but I'm having trouble connecting it to beauty.
It is a big idea for him,
Yeah.
and it's totally relevant here.
Okay.
Think about a universal computer, like the ones we use every day.
Mm-hmm.
They can simulate any physical process,
Right.
given enough time and resources.
Right.
You can use your phone to navigate,
Yeah.
play music, even simulate the weather.
Yeah. I use all those features all the time.
Exactly.
But how does that apply to beauty and art?
That's a great question.
Are you saying our brains are like universal computers when it comes to appreciating beauty?
That's a fantastic way to put it.
Really?
Yeah, Deutsch argues that this idea of universality goes for our minds, too.
Okay.
Our brains are like universal explainers, in a sense,
Okay.
capable of understanding and creating knowledge about anything, even aesthetic principles and the nature of beauty.
So even though I might not have grown up listening to, say, traditional Indian classical music, I can still appreciate its beauty.
Yeah.
Because my brain, as a universal explainer, can process and understand the aesthetic principles behind it.
Exactly.
Even if they're different from what I'm used to.
Yes, and this suggests that we can create and appreciate art forms that we can't even imagine yet.
Wow.
Think about how little we knew about the universe just a few centuries ago.
Right.
Had no idea about quantum mechanics or the multiverse.
Yeah.
Our understanding of beauty could be just as limited. As our knowledge grows and our creative tools evolve, so will our experience of beauty.
That's both exciting and a little intimidating.
Right.
Makes you realize how much we still don't know.
Yeah.
And how much beauty there might be out there waiting to be discovered.
Uh-huh.
It reminds me of those AI art generators.
Oh, yeah.
They're causing such a stir.
Yeah.
Some people think it's the end of art as we know it, while others see it as a whole new frontier.
Right.
I wonder what Deutsch would say about all that.
That's a great question. It's a complex topic, one that deserves its own deep dive for sure.
Yeah.
But I think Deutsch would be cautious about seeing AI as replacing human creativity.
Okay.
He'd probably say that AI can be a super powerful tool, but it's still something created by humans, you know?
Yeah.
The real question is, how can we use these tools to better understand and create beauty?
So instead of it being AI versus humans,
Yeah.
it's more about working with these technologies to see what's possible with art and aesthetics.
Exactly. Deutsch is all about embracing the power of knowledge and creativity to change our world. Remember what we talked about with Easter Island? That's a good example of what happens when a culture gets stuck in a cycle of repeating things
Okay.
and they don't look for new knowledge.
Right.
Those huge statues they made are incredible.
They are.
Amazing feats of engineering. But they also show a sort of dead end for creativity. They had all this skill and effort, but they got trapped in this loop just copying the same forms over and over.
Yeah, you're right.
Deutsch uses Easter Island as a warning about the dangers of not moving forward
Right.
and how important it is to embrace change,
Yeah.
even when it's hard or disruptive. The islanders were skilled, but they didn't have that drive to find new explanations,
Okay.
to push the boundaries of knowledge and beauty that Deutsch sees as so important for growth.
Yeah.
Their art and culture became static, and
Right.
their civilization eventually collapsed.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It reminds us that true art isn't just about mastering techniques or copying what's already been done. It's about always looking for new knowledge,
Yeah.
pushing the limits of beauty and embracing the infinite possibilities of creativity.
That's a good way to put it.
And, that applies to everything in life, not just art.
That's true.
Whether we're talking about science or politics or even our personal relationships,
Yeah.
Deutsch wants us to use creativity, critical thinking, and that constant search for better explanations.
Yeah.
It's a message that really hits home,
It does.
especially in a world that often feels stuck in old ways of thinking.
I like that idea.
Yeah.
It reminds us that we can all be part of this journey of discovery and creation. We're all part of this huge tapestry of knowledge and beauty,
Yes.
each with our own unique view to offer.
Beautifully said. And speaking of beauty, there's another fascinating thing Deutsch talks about.
Yeah.
The idea that beauty isn't just subjective or decided by culture. He says there's a strong link between beauty and explanation.
Okay.
And by that, he means good explanation.
Beauty and explanation.
Yeah.
Those seem like pretty different concepts.
I know, right?
How does he connect the two? Okay, you've got me curious.
Good.
I have to admit, the idea of beauty being tied to a good explanation seems a little counterintuitive.
It does.
How does Deutsch make that connection?
It's one of those ideas that sounds odd at first,
Yeah.
but when you dig deeper, it actually starts to make sense.
Okay.
Deutsch argues that our sense of beauty is really connected to our ability to understand good explanations.
Okay.
I think about it this way.
Okay.
We find things beautiful,
Yeah.
not just because of how they look on the surface,
Right.
but because of the order underneath, the elegant solutions they represent.
So not just pretty colors or shapes,
Right.
but the meaning behind it.
Yeah.
The intelligence we see in the design.
Exactly. I'm glad you're getting it.
Yeah.
It's like when Deutsch talks about flowers.
Right.
We like them not just because of their bright petals,
Yeah.
but because they show a clever way to attract pollinators.
It's like we're admiring how smart nature is.
That's it. And Deutsch says this applies to art too.
Okay.
He thinks we find art beautiful when it gives us new understanding, new explanations about the world, or even ourselves.
So it's not just about aesthetics.
Right.
It's about expanding what we know.
Exactly.
So a beautiful painting
Yes.
isn't just about good brushstrokes or a nice composition.
No.
It's about how much it means, how it shows us something new, something we hadn't thought of before.
That's where the real beauty is.
Okay, I get that.
Good.
But if beauty is about good explanations,
Yeah.
wouldn't that make it subjective?
That's interesting.
What one person thinks is a good explanation, someone else might not.
You're right. That's a really good point.
Yeah.
And it leads to one of the trickier parts of Deutsch's thinking.
Okay.
He says that even though what we understand as a good explanation changes over time,
Yeah.
the basic rules of what makes an explanation good are objective, even universal.
Okay, now I need you to explain that a bit more.
Sure.
How can a good explanation be objective when what we know is always changing?
Remember when we talked about universality?
Yeah.
Deutsch says there are some universal things that make a good explanation good.
Okay.
No matter what the subject is,
Mhm.
a good explanation is short and sweet.
Yeah.
It's elegant.
Okay.
And most importantly, it's hard to vary.
Hard to vary. What does that mean?
It means if you change any important part of the explanation, it just stops working.
Okay.
It's like a perfectly put together puzzle
Yeah.
where each piece fits just right.
So even though what we know specifically is always changing, we can still see these basic qualities of a good explanation.
Yeah.
Whether it's about physics
Right.
or the beauty of a flower or how powerful a symphony can be.
Exactly. And Deutsch believes that this is what drives progress in all areas, even art.
Okay.
We use what we already know.
Yeah.
We look at our explanations and make them better. And that's how we create even better, more beautiful art.
Wow. This deep dive has really changed how I think about beauty.
I'm glad to hear that.
It's not just about aesthetics.
Right.
It's about knowledge and explanation and this constant search for deeper meaning.
It is. It really is.
It's incredible.
And it reminds us that beauty isn't just something to look at.
Yeah.
It's a powerful force in the universe, connected to how we look for knowledge and understanding.
Well, we've talked about a lot today.
We have.
From coevolution and objective beauty to the power of good explanations and the unlimited potential of art.
Yeah.
David Deutsch's ideas are always thought-provoking.
Definitely.
But they give us a new way to see the world and our place in it as creative beings who seek knowledge.
Yeah, it's been a great journey.
It has.
And as always, we encourage you to keep exploring on your own.
Yeah.
Keep asking questions.
Right.
Keep looking for those moments of awe and wonder that show us the beauty of the world. And keep looking for those good explanations that shed light on the mysteries of the universe.
Thanks for joining us today.
It was my pleasure.